Let's talk to Stephen White, OBE, former Assistant Chief Constable of the Police Service of Northern Ireland. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning, Kevin.
Now, this, of course, is a shocking security breach, but I think essentially it is a story of police incompetence. These are two terrible bungles that have compromised the safety of many serving officers, very sensitive place in Northern Ireland that you will know only too well, and intelligence officers as well, and of course people who just work for the police, the staff there. I mean, the PSNI have got some serious questions to answer here, haven't they?
Absolutely, and I'm sure the Chief Constable and the senior ranks are absolutely mortified. The situation in Northern Ireland is not good at the moment in terms of security situation. It's ranked by the security services as a severe threat to all police officers and their families and support staff. So to have this breach or leak not only shows incompetence, but perhaps, in a sense, the cultural shift from a time when security was paramount, security of personnel, security of documents and information, security both at the personal level and at the organisational level. So there's serious questions to be asked, and sadly it has put a lot of dismay, anger and indeed fear throughout the ranks.
They need to, I would suggest, devise a new protocol, a much more strict protocol about what happens with information, freedom of information requests. And I would also suggest to tell everyone who works for the PSNI, be they a copper or a staff or even an MI5 agent, you are not allowed to take sensitive documents out of the office and stick them in your car. They remain in the office, right?
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's as basic as that. What I'm concerned about is certainly at the systems level and the data leak prevention tools that are available, the training, the management. But a lot of this is about common sense. You mentioned about, perhaps MPs in the past losing documents, and certainly there have been cases in Northern Ireland where a file of fax has gone missing, or an operational order has somehow found itself into the public domain. But this is massive. But the one thing I want to point out is one of the media coverages last night showed the initial freedom of information question. It was quite innocuous. They weren't asking for names. They were simply asking for the deployment, in a sense, the organogram. What does your organisation look like? And in terms of ranks, numbers, and so on. How someone then translated that into, give me the names and the sensitive details of where they're deployed for every single police officer and support staff. It beggars belief. But the fact that there was no one supervising that, no sort of common sense or professional competent person saying, you don't release these things. So, there's a lot of head scratching going on here at the moment. One of the assistant chief constables has been man enough or professional enough to man up and go on TV and say, look, I'm ultimately responsible for this. But it's more than one individual. Obviously, the whole system, as you mentioned, there has to be overhauled in terms of its processes and procedures.
Yes, and I would suggest that in terms of the new protocol that they must bring in, there has to be serious checks at the top. No freedom of information request answer, no reply to response to a freedom of information request goes out before someone extremely senior has checked exactly what the police are going to reveal here. Would that be a sensible way forward?
Absolutely, and with the greatest respect to you, you can spot that immediately. For those who have worked in the police or the security services for a lifetime, it's so obvious. I mean, I don't want to come across as the old guy who this is how we used to do it, but when I worked in the Chief Constable's office as a young superintendent, if there's something come in like that, a freedom of information request, you would have the communications department, you would have the command secretariat, you would have the legal advisor, you would have the head of security and special branch, you would have various people from human resources saying, what are the implications of putting this into the public domain? Who is the person asking the question? Why are they asking it? What are the dangers or threats if we release some of this information? So that simple checklist which, as I say, a layperson would probably think is common sense. How that didn't happen, I really can't explain.
And final question, Stephen. We need some sort of robust response from the PSNI, don't we? I would suggest today to admit there have been terrible failings and to at least indicate what they're going to do to make sure this never happens again. Their silence so far has been kind of deafening.
Yeah, well, I think it's been compounded by the fact that the Chief Constable, unfortunately, was on holiday. Obviously, he would have had a Deputy Chief Constable to stand up, but at the minute, only one Assistant Chief Constable, as far as I'm aware, has come out and said, this was human error and we'll learn from it. But when you listen to the head of the Police Federation, who is responsible for the welfare and conditions of service of his officers, you can see the impact it's having throughout the force in terms of morale, in terms of concerns about security, credibility of leadership, and so on. So, yes, articulating what went wrong and what's going to be done to address the situation is the very minimum that should happen.
Maybe they should get you back there, Stephen. Thank you so much for your time. Great to talk to you. That's Stephen White, former Assistant Chief Constable of the PSNI.